Initializing. Wake up, Brad.
I'm looking. I'm trying to figure out this YouTube thing.
Yes, we are live. We're live on EV Mux. That's a funny word, isn't it?
Is that the name of the thing? EV Mux.
EV
Oh yeah,
Mux.
powered by EV Mux. Yeah.
Powered by EV Mux.
I thought it was a droid name or something.
That could be a droid name. I like that.
EV Mux.
Excellent. Excellent. How you doing, sir?
Brian Tracy is in the house. That's right.
Excellent.
No one can get my
Yes.
name right. That's the inside joke. No one. I don't know. I'm either Tracy or Brian or
Well,
what was that?
what did I
Mark. Mark a
last
couple
week?
of weeks ago.
I introduced you as the man with two first names.
Yeah, yeah, and I work with like three Brads right now, which is
Oh,
kind of. So I'm like, you just call me Tracy. And I've been called that for the last 20 years. But how are you doing?
pretty good. Pretty good. Are we live?
Are we? It says live.
Yeah. I keep refreshing, and I still see the. Oh, there we go. We are live. That's great. We have to get the hang of this EV Mux droid thing. But welcome everybody to the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast, Scarif Live. We have a very special guest coming up in a few minutes. But uh, some quick announcements. Are you watching anything coming down from New York Comic Con?
No.
Huh.
But, no, I've been way too busy. Like this work stuff is really getting in the way of my life.
Adulting
Uh,
sucks, as they say.
but I did just finish a show on Netflix though, which I
What
want
show?
to. You got to watch Archive 81. I don't.
Archive
I don't.
81?
Yeah, I don't know how we stumbled across it, but if you like kind of horror, suspense, mystery, thriller type,
Okay.
it's 8 episodes. Each episode's like an hour long. Oh, now I can see the chat. Okay, there it is. Okay, I don't have to go down and stare at my phone anymore.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Um, yeah, it's 8 episodes, and each episode's an hour long, and they each seem like a their own movie. Highly recommend.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So what's going up in New York?
Nicole says my audio is low. Again, growing pains. How about now, Nicole? We good? We good?
That's funny. I hear
Excellent.
you fine.
So I saw a trailer for Daredevil Born Again, and
Oh,
looks pretty damn good.
I
You know,
never
I
watched. Is that a movie coming out?
No, it's a series.
Oh, a series coming out.
You
Okay.
never watched the
No,
Daredevil on
I
Netflix?
still gotta go back and watch all those Marvel
Yeah,
like that and Punisher. I gotta go back and watch all of them.
yeah, those are pretty good. She says I'm still low.
Nicole, I think it's on your end.
Hmm. But as long as you hear me on this mic, and I'm hoping it's not that mic. Let me double check here. No, I
Doesn't
think
sound
it's
no, it doesn't sound like computer mic.
yeah. No, we're good. We're good. Turn up your volume, Nicole. It's the
The other
one with
half, yeah.
the one that says V on it. But no, that's great.
Don't
Um,
patronize the patrons.
don't patronize the patrons. I'm sorry, Nicole. So we're going to talk a little bit about collectibles. There's a lot of movement going on, but before we actually start our main show, again, I don't know. We were talking about this before we went live. I don't know. When's the last time you actually bought anything retail, like at a store?
Uh, Definitely, like if I bought anything, it was like towels or something, like kitchen towels or
Right. No, I mean
but
collectibles.
no, but no, I can't tell you because they're like I am not paying $30 for a little action figure that I already have three copies of. I mean, it's in the sections. I feel like the Star Wars section keeps getting smaller and smaller at either
I've noticed
Walmart,
that too.
Target, and it's like there was I went the other day and there was a lightsaber with a Chewbacca hilt. I'm like, what are we doing here with our lives? This doesn't make. Who wants a Chewbacca hilt lightsaber? I'm sure
Wait, and
Rancho Obi Wan has one, but I I don't know.
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that. But you're right. I think the Star Wars section is getting a little smaller. For some reason, I think we'll chat with Steve
Yeah,
about that. I love going to thrift stores because I've been able to
Yeah,
find so much, and obviously there's some managers that are local thrift stores because it's got a Star Wars logo. They like to pump up the price, but sometimes you get some really great deals. I've
yeah.
got I actually got a couple of helmets last week. Did I show you guys? I showed you guys the Tie Fighter. It's huge. I love it. Um,
How big is that one? Because there's one at the antique store that we went to today. It was the first order Tie Fighter.
Oh, the first order TIE fighter I should have gotten. And I
Yeah,
remember I went to Ross's and it was there for $14. And I said, you know what? It's too big. Maybe if it's here tomorrow, I'll get it.
yeah,
It was on sale. And then I came back the next day, it was gone. And
yeah,
I mean, I've had a lot of that type of not buyer's remorse, but
yeah,
the first order TIE fighter is really great. I have two first order TIE fighters, the speakers, the USB speakers they're
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
But did I show it last week? No. So the Tie Fighter.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's oh my god, I still have the sticker on it. $12 from Goodwill.
Can't beat that. Oh, you
Believe
got
me.
from Goodwill.
Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna,
really
in,
you
in
really
a
can't
second.
beat
I'll
it.
show you what I got from Goodwill today.
Yeah, but no, show
All
us.
right. So I'm going to show two things. One of which I got a couple weeks ago, and throughout the course of this podcast or this show tonight, I'm going to end up opening this, and we're going to talk to Steve about should we open or keep our collectible
Yeah.
sealed. But it's a lights and sounds Darth Vader.
What?
Yeah, I've never, we talk about pops a lot, and but this one has lights and sounds, and I'm hoping the battery is in there. But I had never. This is for any of you Funko folks. This is 343. But I've never seen them with lights and sounds.
Neither have I.
And I am going to open it and see if it does. But from Goodwill today, oh, 6-pack of mugs
Oh, very nice.
from
Coffee mugs.
2021, and it comes with a pack of hot chocolate. So if you have enough viewers tonight, then I'll drink the hot cocoa mix from.
Very
I think this
nice.
is 2021 exclusive.
Oh,
So
hopefully it'll
this
still
is a
taste good.
100 calorie pack of Star Wars mugs.
Very nice. Very
But
nice.
yeah,
And I did want to show you this was loose at a Goodwill as well. It's a Shogun type
oh yeah, that's nice.
Darth Vader with the samurai sword.
Where'd you get that from?
Goodwill.
You got that from Goodwill?
Yeah.
I
I
gotta go to
forgot.
Chicago. I gotta go to Chicago Goodwills.
Yeah.
Holy.
But it's funny though, because we were aware of, I don't know what her name is, Star Wars thrifting. I think she lives on the West Coast, and all her stuff is it get all the stuff on the West Coast gets filtered to the Midwest, and we don't get as much cool things as I feel like they have on the West Coast when it comes to thrifting. But this is pretty damn cool. I like it,
Yeah.
and I know they have a stormtrooper in the same look and feel, and I think they have a
Was
Boba
that
Fett.
loose or in a box?
No, this is loose. This was loose, but
I
we'll
assume
ask.
since
Yeah.
you had it out, it must have been loose already.
Oh yeah, we'll ask Steve about the and again, I don't know what line this is, what it's called, Shogun, Japanese samurai.
I mean, in my opinion, it only matters if you're planning on selling it. And are either one of us planning on ever selling?
No,
I mean,
no.
what kind of deathbed situation would we have to be on? Oh no, you had a question about being buried with our stuff, so it doesn't
Right.
matter then either. I would rather be
Well,
buried with it.
yeah, we'll definitely ask Steve about that. I'll ask you. I have my item here. It'll definitely fit in the box with me when I go, but we'll definitely talk to Steve about that.
Yeah,
But yes, chat. Thank you guys for joining us tonight's episode. We are going to be talking with Steve Sansweet of Rancho Obi Wan. There's some major news and some things that we'd like to discuss and have Steve talk to us about. We also want to talk a little bit about general collecting and things like that. We've got some questions, and we've hopefully have some answers for you. And you know what? During the we usually put these podcasts in the audio feed too. When this comes out in the audio feed, I would love to give out some Scarif Scuttlebutt
Nice.
stickers.
Those are great stickers.
And you know what? I ordered a mug, one mug from Yeti, customized Yeti mug, and I want to take a look at it before I qualify it to use it as a giveaway. But they so far, I think I'll get it tomorrow. No, tomorrow's Sunday. I'll get it Monday. I'll take a look at it, and then if it looks good, I'll order some more, and you'll have one heading your way. But
Awesome.
we'll see how good it looks. All right, I'm gonna refill my glass, and maybe you can make some hot chocolate. We'll bring Steve out.
I'm gonna
And
open. I'm gonna open Vader in the meantime.
oh, nice.
Let's do
Nice.
it.
All right, let's do it.
This podcast is a member of the Red 5 Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts and content creators, visit bio.link/Red5.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
And there we go. Very nice. Welcome,
right.
welcome, Steve Sansweet.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, I just gotta say, to have Steve on one time on the podcast. Okay, now be quiet. I can't tell Vader to be quiet.
It won't shut up. It won't shut up. Not at all.
To have you on once on the podcast was amazing. I can't believe we get to talk to you the second time. So thank you for coming on.
My pleasure. We've got some news.
Yes, absolutely. So before we started, I posed this question to Brad, and we'll ask Steve as well. We'll go with Brad first. What is that one piece of Star Wars collectible that you would love to be buried with once you're gone?
I'm going to cheat. Maybe I'll pick one after I cheat, but I'm just going to say all my action figures. All my loose action figures as they should be. But I don't know if it's got to be my Wicket. It's he's my boy. If I had to pick one, but no, I'm getting buried with all my action figures, so I can take them with me.
That's hilarious. I've got one of the things that I love. Is very precious to me. It's this Rydell Darth Vader helmet, autographed by Mr. David Prowse.
I thought it was your Darth Rowe. No,
2 row. David Prowse is
That's
Darth
awesome.
Vader. But this has an interesting history. When I went to when Dave Prowse was allowed to tour and sign autographs, I met him here in Chicago, and I had a bag that I had all my collectibles and comics with. And he signed it. I put it in the bag. I laid the bag down to continue to talk with him. And then I left. 10, 15 minutes go by, and I realized I didn't have my bag. The bag was not in my hands, and I was freaking out. I ran back to where he was signing autographs, and the yellow bag was still sitting on the ground, on the floor in front of somebody else, who must have not noticed it, but I grabbed it, and it was safe and sound, and nobody stole it, which I thought was amazing. But yeah, it's one of my most prized possessions, and I'm telling my wife that this is what I want to be buried with. Yeah, she thinks I'm weird.
What?
Yeah.
Too funny.
It's got to be a little bit harder for you to choose, Steve. You have a few more things to choose from
Right.
than what we do.
One or two. And it's a little morbid to think of, but I think I think I would pick the very first Star Wars item in my collection, because that led to 47 years and changing my life and everything else. And it's the marketing brochure that Lucasfilm and 20th Century Fox sent out to theater owners and the media early in 1977. And it came to my office. I was a reporter for the Wall Street Journal in Los Angeles. Came to the office and went to the guy who covered the movie business for the Journal. And he's looking through it, and I'm looking over at him, seeing it, salivating a little because I was into science fiction and heard a little something about this new movie coming out that spring. And he tossed it in his wastebasket.
Hmm.
So I waited till he left for the day, and I tippy-toed over to the wastebasket, and it was my first dumpster diving for Star Wars, but by far not the last. So I have another copy of that, so it can go on in the legacy collection. But the one that I got is sort of falling apart, but it was my first Star Wars collectible.
Wow.
So
That's funny.
did you just have a feeling about it at that time, or what? Did you have a premonition, Yoda style?
I had started collecting science fiction toys about a year before Star Wars came out, and battery operated robots from Japan and Hong Kong, and Star Trek toys, and Major Matt Mason and Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon, and just all kinds of stuff. And that eventually led to Star Wars as part of the space toy collection, and eventually all that sort of went on eBay over the years and helped me build my Star Wars collection.
Sure. It's funny. Your dumpster dive scenario. I remember when was it when the special editions came out? They had the studio had created a press release and a press kit with a folder. You had the cover with that gold coin type of emblem, that Engot with the logo on it,
Right.
and it had some lobby cards inside and some press release and some information on there. Well, I work in television news, and we got a press kit for it, and announcing the release of the special editions. Somebody just tossed it in the trash, and I was walking past the newsroom, and I just happened to look down, and I'm like, how can somebody do this? I grabbed it and took it home, and oh my god, what an amazing little piece of memorabilia that is. I still have it. The folder is great. The images inside were obviously, the promotional end of the before and after of the original film and Empire and Return of the Jedi. But it's wonderful to have been able to rescue that from the garbage. And I'm sure, like, even in the 70s when we were kids, one of the reasons obviously that these toys and collectibles are so sought after is because we did rip them open and play with them and all this stuff. Um, I remember in '99 when I went to Los Angeles to go see the Phantom Menace. Afterwards, I mean, everybody was vying for toys at Toys R Us. I remember the midnight sales. I got 10 Darth Mauls just in case that I was able to maybe utilize that as a down payment for a house. Um,
Not Jar Jar.
not Jar Jar, no, but yeah,
I was about
obviously,
to say the same thing, Brad.
yeah, yeah. I mean, things change.
Hey, Taco
Collectibles
Bell had some cool
change.
Jar Jar stuff. I'm
They
just
sure
saying.
did. They sure did. But yeah, it's funny. Steve, I wanted to ask you, as far as collectible, I mean, you have seen every stage of fans collecting one thing or another from the beginning to current stage. What have you found as far as how the collective or the collection arena has changed, especially in the last 5 years?
I think the pandemic changed a lot of things. Instead of going to the stores once a week and looking at the Star Wars section, people were doing everything online, and I think that has continued. I think that's why we're seeing one of the reasons that we're seeing smaller sections of Star Wars toys at like Target and Walmart and places like that. But there are major online retailers like Big Bad Toy Store, Entertainment Earth. I know I have a standing order for Hasbro action figures from Entertainment Earth, and it doesn't include the limited editions that you get at Walmart and Target, but I try to find those. Um, but it's easier and more difficult at the same time because Disney has really expanded the amount of collectible merchandise. I recently picked up a Baby Yoda hot water bottle
Oh,
licensed. I couldn't believe they had licensed a hot water bottle. It has
wow.
the ears coming out. It's really cute, but I love the quirky stuff. So
Sure.
I'm buying a lot less than I used to buy. I considered myself a completist, by which I meant I want one of everything anywhere in the world. Well, Disney licenses in 7 different regions. They've split up the world into 7 different regions, and they have contracts, international contracts with licensees in those regions. And that stuff is impossible to even know what exists sometimes, much less get it. So I'm happy with certain categories of toys that I'm collecting now. And the collecting business has changed. You have high end collectibles like the Yadro ceramic pieces, porcelain pieces, the Regal Robot replica maquettes, which I love. It's my new favorite licensee in the last couple of years. I look for particular posters for my poster collection. Um, but there are things I've cut out too. So that's life. We
Now,
Yeah.
all
you said you were. Well, I mean, we all know that you're a completionist, but is there a current number to how many collectibles you have in your possession between personal and Rancho Obi Wan?
we estimate that our database is only up to 147,000, but
Only?
only because we probably have about 400 to 500,000 individual pieces. Not only do we have Rancho Obi Wan, but we have an offsite warehouse. So together, there's about 19,000 square feet of space, and the warehouse is packed to the gills.
Hmm.
It's life goals right there.
Yeah.
And Ro, I just want to say we're making really good progress here in the Tracy household. Like I said baby Yoda the other day to the baby, and my wife goes, that's Grogu. You better be teaching him correctly." I'm like, "Oh my God,
Wow.
be still my heart." Like that's
That's
I
good.
apologize for saying baby Yoda,
That's
but
good. That's good.
Steve, what is it about collectibles? Like why do they have so much nostalgic value to us?
I think it's a way to relive the kinds of feelings we had when we first went into the movie theaters and saw these incredible movies, and they just transported us to another place. And emotionally, I think that's why the Kenner toys were originally so uh, popular because you could not only recreate scenes from the movies, but you could create your own stories. And it's all about the storytelling. Obviously, the visual effects at the time, the stories, the characters. I mean, it was the classic mythology of the princess, in this case, who didn't need rescuing, who rescued herself, rescue
Right.
herself. Um, but I think that that has kept it alive all of these years. I mean, we're almost at the 50th anniversary of Star Wars, and it's with some dissension in the ranks online, it's as popular as ever. And I think we're going to see more popularity and more toys coming out as the movies come back to the theaters. And we're promised some more Star Wars movies in the next couple of years. I think you need a big event like that to help anchor what's happening out there. You can't just have merchandise or
Sure.
even streaming TV series, as good as some of them are, like Andor.
I know I like this guy.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting. We always talk about the upcoming anniversaries of Star Wars, and obviously as a kid you don't think about that stuff, and also the fact that before we only had 3 movies, now we've got a whole bunch of other things, and Star Wars is so multi generational. You attach yourself to the franchise in some aspect of where your life is and which film for whatever reason hits you. both in your soul and in your heart. And I think, for older fans, it's interesting to see some of the younger fans who were born in a year with a two in it, like a 2000 whatever, versus us older fans that were born in the 1900s per se. But how do we make sure that not only Star Wars, but maybe Star Wars collecting, how do we steward new fans into the next 50 years of Star Wars collecting? And how do we guide them or help them kind of enjoy what it is that collectors do, as far as what Brad talked about, the nostalgia of reliving certain moments of the films.
Well, even back in the 80s and 90s, when I was writing a column scouting the galaxy for Star Wars Insider, I would get these scrawled letters or hand printed letters from kids who would say, I just bought a Greedo action figure for $5.95. How much is it worth? And I would write back and say, willing buyer, willing seller, but you buy something because you love it. You want to focus on something. Um, and so I think what we've seen at Rancho Obi Wan sometimes are three generations of a family come through here: grandfather, father, and son or daughter, or grandfather, grandmother, daughter, and granddaughter. So it's really as you said, a multi generational saga that has continued, but we need more major points of action, such as a movie release. I think even George realized towards the end, when he was thinking about maybe selling it, he had come up with another, even though he had said, no more movies, I'm never making more Star Wars movies. He had come up with an outline for three more Star Wars movies, because I think at that point he realized that in order to keep Star Wars alive, you need those major attractions, those major uh, pop culture events that sort of bring in people from all over the world.
Absolutely, yeah.
Ro writes great notes, and every time we talk, we're gonna go off. We're gonna go off the script anyway, because Ro and I have been talking lately, and there's a lot of people been talking about George Lucas and whether he could, you know, you talk about dissension online. Do you think? What would you think about the idea of George Lucas coming back, or do you think retirement's good for him?
I think retirement's been very good for him, and he's been very busy building his museum in Los Angeles, the $1 billion Lucas Museum of Narrative Arts, which will have some Star Wars stuff, but it's his Norman Rockwell collection and other wonderful art that he has in his collection, amazing movie posters that he was willing to share with his employees by hanging at the locations that where we work. Um, but I think Star Wars is somebody else's baby now, and I don't think George is interested at 80 in coming back and doing things like that. Francis Ford Coppola is a different story with his release of Megalopolis, um, be that for the good or for the bad. But it's something that he had on his mind for 40 years and finally has scratched that itch. I don't think George has that itch.
Yeah, that's interesting. Living in Chicago, we from time to time will see him doing something with his wife. I know they just bought like one of the biggest, uh, luxury suites here somewhere. But it's great to know that he has a home here in Chicago. I still haven't gotten my invitation for the housewarming party, but I'm sure it's stuck in the mail somewhere.
It's coming.
It's coming. It's coming.
Drool off the porch.
Yes, yes, yes. Steve, you said that you enjoy Star Wars collectibles when the collectibles are kind of goofy in a way that they're fun to watch, and a little history of it. But is there anything that hasn't been made into a collectible that you thought, that you think, oh, maybe this would be cool? And I know there's some goofy items out there like the C3PO tape dispenser, which always comes to mind. You've got a lot of bootleg Star Wars action figures that always come to mind, and I know you have a couple of Uzes yourself in the inventory. But is there any goofy, quirky items that you feel, you know what? I wonder why they never made like a Darth Vader so and so or something like that.
I think there used to be. I think there were some areas where, especially combining electronics and new technology with Star Wars, um, Disney has come up with a lightsaber that actually is a laser sword and is capped. The blade gets so long, and then, I mean, it's not for public sale, but they've shown it on video. I always said that they should make the hologramic chess players,
Mm.
and that's something that Tom Spina and Regal Robot actually produced a couple of years ago. So that was my big want. And I've got a holographic chess table that my friend Philip Wise made, and wonderful pieces of the hologramic chess players on it.
That's amazing. And I got the wooden version of that from I think I got that one from Galaxy's Edge, but the wooden chess set. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, they're really nice.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. You can go in and you can mine pieces that from 50 years ago almost. Um, Disney Store and the parks just produced a smaller version of C3PO's head that when you touch it, it lights up and says lines from the movies. I've got that on the way. And they produced the wonderful Star Speeder 3000. That was
Yes.
the edition at D23, which sold out very quickly online when they put it online. So I broke down and I said, okay, I'll pay eBay prices for this.
Yeah, I saw that. It's beautiful, and I think one of our patrons, his first love of Star Wars was Rex from the Disney ride, and I always think of him when I see some of that older stuff, and the Star Cruiser is a wonderful piece of
I wrote a front page story for the Wall Street Journal on the making of Star Tours because it was the first uh, motion platform ride
Mhm.
that was adapted by a big park. And so I was looking forward greatly to going to the media preview for the Star Tours ride. And then I got a call from our New York office of the Wall Street Journal asking me to come back to New York. So I knew it was to ask me if I wanted to be bureau chief in Los Angeles. So I had to debate whether I wanted to go to New York for my job and become bureau chief in Los Angeles for the Wall Street Journal or go to a Star Wars press preview. And I'll tell you, it was a difficult decision.
I'm sure it
I
was.
went
I'm
to
sure
New
it
York.
was. That's funny. I wanted to ask you, Steve. We all, when we're in front of the camera talking about Star Wars on YouTube, you see a lot of us with Star Wars, artifacts behind us, collectibles, things that we've amassed through the years. But to be able to be someone like Steve Sansweet and go into this warehouse, what does your day, your regular day look like? Do you go in the morning with your morning coffee, sit next to Darth Vader, and just admire your collection? What is it like to be Steve?
That's a good idea. I used to do that a lot more. I don't now. The museum is run and very capably run by Ann Newman, who came here 18 years ago for. She was going to stay 6 months and inventory the entire collection. 18 years later, she's still here. She's president and chief executive of Rancho Obi Wan and runs Rancho on a day-to-day basis. Um, I still sometimes go in and play the arcade games, some of which I'm fairly decent on, and some of which I really stink up the place. The pod racer game invariably throws me out and says the crowd is furious at your slow speed. So I can't win on that one. Um, but it's fun to walk through. It's fun to see the collection when other people come
Mm.
and walk through and share it. I mean, that's the thing. That's why we decided to turn Rancho Obi Wan from a from its own warehouse into a nonprofit public-facing museum that does tours. We book tours in advance on Saturdays only, usually, and we have docents who give 2 to 3 hour tours and walk people through the collection. And I go in at the end, and it's wonderful to hear what people say. Thank you for sharing my childhood with me, and I remember having this, I remember having that, and it brings back wonderful memories. We just had a recommitment ceremony. The couple who got married 5 years ago today came back with a bunch of their friends from Los Angeles and had a recommitment ceremony in the Tonti 4 hallway that we have, and exchanged the new vows. It was beautiful. It was great.
It's got to be something special to be able to kind of relive your own collection through the eyes of people that are walking through the collection themselves. How does that feel? How does that make you feel?
It feels great because again, if I just had everything in boxes in a garage or in a storage facility, it would be. I mean, what's the purpose? What's
Sure.
the sense? It makes no sense at all. So I encourage people to build barns.
Yes,
So we're very
exactly.
lucky. When I moved up from my house in Los Angeles was a single story on stilts in the hills east of Hollywood. And I started collecting the space toys and Star Wars. And so I added one floor underneath into the hillside. And then that got quickly filled. So I added another floor underneath that.
Mm.
And then one storage locker became 5 storage lockers. And that was getting a little frustrating. So when Lucasfilm called, and I eventually got the job with Lucasfilm in marketing and fan relations, and they said in '98, okay, you got to move up here full time. I started looking for properties, and I was looking for something with a lot of space. And the property that I'm at now and have been for the last 26 years was a former chicken barn farm.
Hmm.
And the neighbors say that up until the early 1970s, there were 20,000 hens that lived on the property in these chicken barns.
Wow.
And then it was taken over by a guy who started making machinery for cabinet makers and had 13 employees. He got shut down by the county. And these barns were vacant. And when I saw them, all I saw was the space. I didn't see how much would have to be done to make them uh, livable and uh, good for storage. And we did that in '98, '99. And so we had one large barn. And then when I knew I was going to be retiring from Lucasfilm in 2011, the year before that, we decided to turn ourselves into a nonprofit and expand by redoing a second barn and attaching the two. And so that's where we are right now.
Wow.
We mentioned at the top of the show that we got some big news to talk about, but before we get to that, can we settle this once and for all? Are collectibles meant to be left in the box or to be taken out and played with?
Yes,
Exactly.
both.
Both. Exactly. Well, it's as when I was in college, and this, to my chagrin, this was one of the biggest reasons I was in debt as a young lad. I bought 2 of everything. Easy peasy. Problem solved.
Well, something like the Star Speeder 3000, I want to play with it. I'm taking it out of
Exactly.
the box.
Right.
The Regal Robot maquette replicas, I want them on the shelf. I want people to be able to see them and say, that's how they became those creatures in Return of the Jedi? That's fantastic. There's a Grogu one, so they're up to date too. Grogu maquette. There's a Jar Jar maquette from
Okay.
Episode 1. Um, but my original 12 action figures were all opened, put on
Hmm.
the shelf along with my other space toys, and I then rebought the original 12. That was the time when I found my vinyl cape Jawa mint on an unpunched card
Wow.
from the dealer who put together the 12 set of figures for me all on cards. And I said, what's that? That looks ugly. why doesn't it have the cloth cape on it? Some fan do that? He said, no, just early or something. I don't know the story behind it. And I said, well, what do you want for it? And he said, well, I have to get $45. And I said, $45 for this junky looking vinyl cape Jawa? Mint on a card, unpunched. And I left the store saying no, put my key in the lock of my door on my car, thought, well, I may not come across this again for a long time. So I went back and paid him the last cash I had in my wallet. So he didn't take credit cards. So that was my $45 vinyl cape Jawa on a mint card story.
Wow.
You never
And
know. I have passed things up that I regret too.
Sure, yeah. And how much is that investment worth now, generally speaking?
Prices on that in this condition are several $1,000s.
Yeah. So I think
Let's
you did good.
yeah, but let's talk about regrets here, Steve. What are some of these regrets you just mentioned?
Well, there's one action figure that I had a chance to buy on a card, a Brazilian Vlix. Vlix was one of the characters in the Droids cartoon series of 1984 that was produced only in Brazil, and in 1988. I mean, it was really weird. Kenner had made the mold and everything, but the Droids and Ewoks figures were not selling well based on the cartoon series. And so they didn't do a second season of these, and they never produced Vlix. But somebody approached me years ago and said they had a Vlix on the card for $600.
Wow.
And I passed.
I just saw it on eBay for 15 grand.
That's cheap.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow. Holy smokes. I'm still
I don't really look over it,
yeah.
but I regret it.
I'm still pissed off that I didn't get the Sears Snaggletooth myself.
Yeah.
At this age I'd be happy with a reproduction, so maybe I'll spend the money on a reproduction, but absolutely. So talking about news, we've been talking about collectibles all evening. You said that there was one question that you were asking yourselves, and I think collectors at a certain age start to ask ourselves the same thing. What happens to our collectibles when we're gone? And I know we want to be buried with them. We want to take them with us. But realistically, that's not possible. Hopefully we'll be around when maybe the technology changes for us to be able to do that. But tongue in cheek, Steve, you said something very specific about your collection, and you obviously have a large collection where it's not practical to do this. But what were you talking about your collection when you leave?
Well, in the 90s, when the internet was just starting and there were online bulletin boards and news groups, my assistant at that point, Josh Ling, said, people are asking what happens to your collection after you pass on. And I said, well, just tell them that I'm going to be laid out in the middle of the collection and it's going to be imploded around me. Some people believe that. But no, this was a subject that came up among a number of our directors who collect. Gus Lopez, who has the most amazing collection of original props and costumes. Lisa Stevens and her husband, Vic Wirtz, who have an incredible collection of original pieces, pre-production pieces of toys, lots of paper ephemera, chrome photographs from the Kenner process, and Duncan Jenkins, who's in the Midwest. Lisa and Vic and Gus live up in the Seattle area, and my friend Duncan Jenkins, who I've known for decades in the Midwest, has a place called the Smithsonian, and he specializes in international versions of toys and action figures and things of that nature. So Gus and Lisa and Duncan are on the board of directors, and Anne and a couple of other of our directors were talking a few years ago, and none of us have children. And so there's not an obvious person to leave this collection to. And Lisa says she wakes up in the middle of the night thinking, oh my God, Vic and I die in a horrible accident. And my mother comes in and says, oh, what's that strange blue figure with the rocket pack in the back that fires? $10.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So we started talking. So for the last 3.5 years, they've been meeting weekly on Zoom and discussing what happens. Can we combine the collections? Can we use Rancho Obi Wan as a base and build from that? And so we announced a couple of weekends ago in Seattle at our big fundraiser that we plan an initiative called the Saga Museum of Star Wars Memorabilia. We're looking for a city. We have a list of 8 cities that we're looking at. We're going to request proposals from those cities. We've set out on a quest to raise $2 million in the next 2 years to be able to hire consultants, architects, museum planners, fundraisers to build or take over an existing building and create a Star Wars museum. In the meantime, we're planning to do pop-up exhibits, maybe around the U.S., but we really think that there is a need and that it would be welcome in the Star Wars collector and fan community, especially as Star Wars gets to its 50th anniversary.
Absolutely. I think
That's
can you
incredible.
yeah, that is incredible, and to be able to team up with other collectors in your area, I think there is so much to be able to share. And I think it's an important question too, not only from a practical standpoint, but also from a historical standpoint, as far as what this saga means to a lot of people. We collect little trinkets, we collect toys and collectibles, and there is obviously a reason for that. We were talking about it earlier about how it connects us to these stories and how important they are. And I think from I think it's something that George Lucas would love to kind of explore. This archaeological way of thinking of Star Wars collectibles for eons to come, and just within the last 50 years, because of the films, I think is such an important stage of of collectors everywhere, to be able to share that with other folks, and somebody that is maybe new to collecting, but even just to talk about why these things exist. Movies, obviously. I think George Lucas kind of tapped on something when he was smart enough to kind of retain the rights to be able to produce these things, and use the revenue for that to maybe make the next chapters. I think he really had something. Smart fellow that George Lucas was, but it's fantastic. Can you share some of the other cities that you guys have been thinking about?
Well, Ann and I would love it to be in the San Francisco area, where we consider the spiritual heart of Star Wars, but we're also looking on the West Coast at Los Angeles and Seattle. We're looking at Las Vegas, Dallas, Chicago, uh, New York, and Boston.
Have you considered Shreveport, Louisiana? I hear that is actually
Matter of fact, Brad, no.
oh, worth a shot.
Steve, if you need any help with even with if you do some pop-ups around the country. I mean, I'm here in Chicago. I own a video production company. I work in news. Please reach out if you need any help with marketing or anything.
Chicago would be a great place for a pop-up exhibit, and
Yeah.
it would be a proof of concept. The four of us, the four collections have merged once before for
Oh, okay.
Star Wars Celebration Anaheim a couple of years ago.
Great.
We did something called Boba Fett to the Mandalorian, and we had a 4,000 square foot space in the exhibit hall at the Anaheim Convention Center, and we merged some of the best pieces from the four together. In the four collections, we've got 7 rocket firing Boba Fett's.
Wow.
Watch out for those eyes and the choking hazard there.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, things like that, we obviously have a lot of duplicate things, but that's great because one of the things that museums do is they put out traveling exhibits.
Hmm.
And so once we establish a full blown museum, we could also do traveling exhibits to other museums, which would help raise revenue and give us more publicity about the Star Wars Museum itself, the Saga Museum.
Absolutely, yeah.
I,
So I put the link up on the bottom there, folks that are watching. Obviously, if you can't help monetarily, I mean, you can definitely help by checking out the website and taking a look at the videos and sharing all the links that are on the website. I think it's a great way to kind of expand our own understanding of collecting and the people behind collecting. We kind of always stay within our bubble when it comes to stuff that we like, but I think it's a great way to expand and see what other people are doing around the country, around the world, as far as collecting. um yeah, I mean, it's a great idea, and I think it's at the right time to be asking these questions. What happens with my stuff when I'm no longer here? You guys are lucky in the fact that your collections are so massive that I'm sure you'll have no problem in the future getting together and putting something like this, together for other fans to share.
hey,
So
hey,
I applaud you guys.
yeah, I was wondering, can we turn this weekly Zoom call into a podcast? Can we have a can there be a Saga Museum podcast, and we can start there. Roe will edit. He's already volunteered to edit.
That's an interesting idea. If we had 3.5 years of back recordings, it would be
I'm
fascinating.
telling you, yeah, Roe's on it. He'll put some bells and whistles on it.
Maybe a little boring at times, but fascinating nonetheless. There's
Yeah,
a
I'm
great
sure.
at the ranchoobiwan.org / the Saga Museum. There's a great 5-minute video that we put together that explores all of the collections, shows some of the objects in the collections, and explains why, from each of us as collectors, the Saga Museum of Star Wars memorabilia makes a lot of sense and why we're aiming to do this and what we're hoping to do.
I
Absolutely.
mean,
Yeah.
I think it speaks for itself, but I'd definitely check it out. I think Roe's going to make sure first, single handedly that it ends up in Chicago.
Yeah. Yes. I wanted to ask you, Steve, this is a kind of a loaded question, but what do you want your legacy to be?
Well, I followed in the footsteps of some pretty amazing people at Lucasfilm. Charlie Lippincott, for example, who was the first head of advertising, marketing, merchandising, and he had 3 lines on his business card. He did so much there. And Charlie is responsible really for the licensing and merchandising of Star Wars and for going out to the fans a year before Star Wars opened and telling the fans about the movie. This wasn't done back in the 70s. But
Right.
Charlie was out there at 4 or 5 conventions in 1976, produced a limited edition Howard Chaykin poster, was very successful in getting Marvel Comics to license Star Wars, and not for a 1 issue. Stan Lee didn't even really want to do 1 issue, but he convinced him to do 6 with Roy Thomas, and got thrown out of a number of toy rooms at New York Toy Fair International when proposing Star Wars. Kenner signed the license to do Star Wars toys a month before the movie opened. I mean, they were committing to it a few months before, but that's how tenuous the whole thing was. And as you said, Ro, George was really savvy in saying he turned down another $50,000 to direct to get the sequel rights and the merchandising rights. And that let him make his movies the way he wanted to and build his company with Industrial Light and Magic, Skywalker Sound, and everything else, what became Pixar. I mean, he was there in the early days of computer animation. So the guy was smart
Yeah.
as well as creative.
Sure.
that's what we want to do. We want to inspire people. Star Wars has inspired so many people to go into so many different professions. Obviously, the film business, but astronauts say they were inspired by Star Wars. Writers, poets, artists. I've met hundreds of artists throughout the world by going to fan conventions and getting some of them to get licensed by Lucasfilm and do work for Star Wars licensees, and that's been a real pleasure. So I want my legacy to be I was the guy who, years after Charlie Lippincott and Craig Miller, the first head of the fan club, started things, and then they slowed down and sort of went into the quiet mode after Return of the Jedi came out. I brought back that relationship between Lucasfilm and the fans by going out in 1996 and going to about a dozen or 15 fan conventions across the U.S. talking about the Star Wars special editions, and then continue doing that through 2011 and doing programs at San Diego Comic-Con and at conventions throughout the world.
That is fantastic. Yeah, again, kudos to you and the rest of the team at Rancho Obi Wan and your other, teammates putting this thing together. Please, before we wrap up, I do want to make sure that I don't forget. Please tell Concetta, thank you so much for setting this up again and just talking to me on in the email. We had such a great conversation about this question: what happens to our collectibles? She's a sweetheart for sure.
She's great.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to add? Again, folks that are still watching, please, head on over to the website and check out that video. I watched the video and throughout the video, I kept on thinking, I'm not jealous. I'm not jealous. I'm not jealous. But absolutely, like I said, reach out if you need any help in Chicago with anything. If you do the pop-ups, I'll be happy to volunteer. I'll carry boxes, whatever it is that you want to do. I'm here to be able to do that. And Brad, I'm sure will come up from wherever it is that he lives. I forgot. Yeah, I already forgot where he lives.
Shreveport is perfect for pop-ups. That's kind of we have a sign downtown. It says that. Yeah.
Excellent. Steve, any other final thoughts before we wrap up and let you go?
No, that's about it. Go to our website. You can book tours at Rancho Obi Wan there. You can buy the new Saga Museum, our first bit of merchandise for the Saga Museum, a T-shirt. You can ask for a brochure on the Saga Museum, and we have, with a donation of $100, we have our first limited edition Saga Museum poster.
Very nice.
Yep. I'm going to do that right now.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm going to grab a T-shirt.
Yeah.
And thank you, Steve, for coming back, somehow returning to the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. Like Palpatine somehow returned. But
somehow he returned.
Absolutely. Steve, you are welcomed here anytime. We love talking about Star Wars and Star Wars collectibles with you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and may the Force be with you.
And with you.
Thank you. Brad, how are we doing tonight?
We're doing great. I just want to remind everybody, always open your Star Wars toys. They only have value if you plan on selling them. Otherwise, they're invaluable. All right, open your toys, put them up on the shelf where they belong, play with them, and that's the Scuttlebutt.
Thank you, everybody in the chat who joined us. Had a wonderful conversation. Steve Sansweet, check out the website and check out the Saga Museum. Thank you so much, everybody. Again, no bells and whistles on this platform because we're still using the free one, but thank you so much. There's your sound effect. Take care, everybody.